In this video, I'm looking at one thing, and that is, how could Superman in the Man of Steel defeat Zod's forces single-handedly, while Kara Zor-El, two Flashes, and a Michael Keaton's Batman couldn't do it? This is a question that has absolutely been bugging the heck out of me ever since seeing the movie The Flash. By all intents and purposes, compared to what Clark was working with in Man of Steel, should be an easy win, right? That is what we're gonna figure out today. Now, I could have an Andrew Tate perspective on this and just be like, well, Superman is a man, so clearly he's stronger, right? But if you were to look at the comics, Kara Zor-El is almost as strong as Superman, and with the help of two Flashes and a Michael Keaton's Batman, this should have been an easy win. So where and what went wrong, and why is it different than the Man of Steel? I'm about to lay out a detailed breakdown between the situations involved in Man of Steel compared to the situations in The Flash. Get ready, let's go. So in order to correctly match this up, we have to go to the same part of each movie where Zod arrives and then go from there and see what is different. In the Man of Steel, Clark walks up to the TV with it repeating the phrase, "You are not alone, you are not alone, you are not alone." This is from Clark's perspective, looking at an alien invasion coming to the planet simply to basically stick it to him. So in the Superman version, you'll see Zod on the screen talking to the military, talking to Clark himself. It is very scary, very ominous, has a very high stakes feel to it. This is much different than what you get in the Barry Allen version, where it is the daytime, Barry's in a cafe watching the Zod message be sent. The difference here, though, is you could see Zod's face, which you couldn't see in the Man of Steel. There was a much more glitchy effect going on, so you couldn't actually see who Zod was at the time. It gave it a much more insidious overtone to the whole thing. So now that we've seen the Zod message, this is where everything goes differently in both movies, and it makes you wonder if there's specific things that happened in the Man of Steel that didn't happen in The Flash that led to Superman being able to win. So let's first take a look at what Barry does after he gets the message from Zod. And then we'll compare it to what Clark does after he gets the message from Zod. So after Barry gets the message from Zod, he realizes that he's got to put together the Justice League to be able to defeat Zod. However, since Barry's not in the same reality that he was in before because he time traveled in the past, there isn't the Justice League that he knows of. So what's he first do? He decides he's going to seek out Batman. As Barry goes to find Batman, he realizes that either Batman's fallen on hard times or this place doesn't look like the Batman that he knows of from his reality. And before Barry knows it, he's attacked by someone who looks like a homeless Jesus. And let me tell you, he legitimately gets the crap kicked out of him by Batman. The original Barry does. The Speed Barry seems to be able to avoid all the stuff that Bruce Wayne does. But the original Barry just seems to get a total and utter ass whooping, and I'm here for it. So as Barry's searching out Batman, Clark decides that he's gonna search out Jesus. This is where the movies become two very different movies because Clark decides to reveal himself to the rest of the world as Superman. Clark says, "I'm Superman, biatch, and guess what? I'm willing to surrender myself as long as you let go of my woman." Superman's then taken into custody where he's questioned about where he came from. Superman says, "Listen, son, I'm a Kryptonian. I could destroy you all in a matter of seconds if I wanted to, but guess what? I'm actually a real chill guy." He also goes on to say, "I can hear literally everything you're saying. I can see literally everything you're doing, even though it's a two-way mirror. Basically, I'm a beast." Superman then says, "You know what? Since I'm such a chill guy, even though I'm digging this chick, I'm gonna hand myself over so that nobody has to fight on my behalf, because guess what? I'm just that chill of a guy." Superman decides to talk to Lois, be like, "You know what, baby? If things weren't different and I wasn't such a total badass that threatens this alien civilization that's coming to get me, we could have been a thing. But you know what? I gots to go." Now, this is where the movies take two very different routes, and I think that this is the reason, in my opinion, where everything goes to shit for the Flash side of things. Whereas Clark's turning himself in, let's go see what happens when Kara comes into the picture. So if we were to match these timelines up perfectly, I think that we could deduce that while Barry was off saving Kara from the Russians, Clark was sitting down with the Americans and talking about who he is and where he's from. And in this particular part, you'll see Clark turn himself into Zod. Now, let's compare this part to The Flash. When Kara finds out about Zod, she doesn't turn herself in, she just goes to see what's happening. Zod comes down to retrieve his Superman, if you will. But of course, since there's no Superman, Zod's pretty pissed, and he lets you know it.
"I gave you a warning. Your failure to deliver the Kryptonian traitor is being taken as an act of war.
Some of you may be thinking, why didn't Kara just turn herself in like Clark did? But she doesn't, because remember, she was not raised by loving parents in Arkansas or wherever it was that Clark was raised. She was in a gulag getting tortured by Russians. So I guess you could say her appreciation for the human race was non-existent at this point. But even Kara watching all these people get massacred was just too much for her to handle. But again, it begs the question, what would have happened had Kara just flew down there and got in with Zod? Well, let's take a look at what happened with Clark after he did that. So once Clark gets completely eye-fucked by General Zod's number one, he decides to go with them. But you know what? Here comes the major twist, and I think this twist makes all the difference here. And that is that General Zod's number one requests that Lois Lane join them on their trip to the spaceship. So now going on the ship isn't just Clark, it's Clark and Lois. Now after Zod does his villainous monologue explaining how he found Clark, there is a bit of an issue in the plots between the two, and that is that Zod claims that when Clark accessed his ship that brought him to the planet, that's what alerted Zod to have the signal to come there. But in the Flash movie, Kara does not find that ship, which makes me wonder, how the hell did Zod find Earth?
Until finally, he detected a distress beacon, which you triggered when you accessed the ancient scout ship.
You led us here, Cap.
Yes, I realize that these movies are meant to be fun, but it also begs the question, how did Zod find Earth if Karen never went to the mothership in the first place because she was locked away in a Russian prison? These are just little things that I'm nitpicking because I'm comparing the movies in real time. At the same time, though, I do feel like it is a question worth asking. Now, we have to stick with Clark here because a lot happens between Kal-El and General Zod than what happens in the Flash movie. And I think everything that happens between Kal-El and Zod is what eventually leads to Kal-El being able to defeat Zod in the end. So after Zod explains to Kal-El that he wants to try to turn Earth into the next Krypton, that begs the question, why, General Zod? Why would you want to turn Earth into Krypton when you could literally go down there and become a god amongst men? It makes literally no sense why he would want to do that. I get it, he's loyal to his race, but don't you think it'd be a lot more fun to fly around the planet and have superpower and just be a total G instead of just turning your planet into just another Earth where you walk around like a schmuck all day? So Zod releases his evil plan, and of course Clark's like, no, I enjoy flying around. I'm not an idiot. Why would I want to walk like a normal human being when I can fly and do all kinds of cool stuff? No, I ain't gonna be a part of it. Then Clark wakes up and realizes that he's strapped down, and that's when Zod goes on to tell him, by the way, Clark, not only am I gonna kill your dad on Earth, but I also killed your dad on Krypton because I'm just that evil. So then, of course, Zod walks away from Clark instead of just killing him right there, and then begins his attack on Earth. The military's like, oh, we got incoming. And they're like, oh, we are totally screwed. These are Kryptonian ships. We have no chance against them. And then they try to do some weird experiments on Clark to try to knock him out with some creepy Kryptonian who shoots him up with some stuff. And then the geniuses decide to lock Lois in a cell. But Lois has got a little bit of a secret, you see, because Lois is holding something called a codex. Didn't these Kryptonians ever hear of something called a pat down? They would have found what they were looking for if they just patted her down a little bit. Just the mildest search, you would have found it, I'm sure. So of course Lois is like, hey, I got this nifty little gadget thing here. Why don't I stick it in this thing and see if it'll help us at all? And of course it does. Why would the Kryptonians stick her in a room with a port to hack the ship? That's what I don't get. It's like they didn't think this through. That little codex that Lois is holding is the whole reason why Superman is even able to start fighting back in the first place, because on that codex apparently is a weird AI version of Clark's dad on Krypton. Don't ask me to explain it. It just happens to be him for some reason. So after she sticks it in, she turns around and who does she see? None other than Russell Crowe, who is Clark's Kryptonian father, there to save the day. And luckily for Lois, it turns out that not only does he know how to fix the ship, but he created the damn thing, and he's going to be able to have the ability now to use the ship in any way he likes, including stopping Zod. Eventually, Russell Crowe's character leads her to what looks like escape pods and tells her to get inside, and then sends her on her way. And he says, most likely we'll not be seeing each other again. This is how they get out of the ship, but not before Lois's pod gets shot a couple times, just to create a little bit of suspense, folks, am I right? Then Russell Crowe delivers the line of the movie, in my opinion.
You can save her, Cal. You can save all of them.
And then, of course, Superman goes and saves Lois in spectacular fashion right before her ultimate demise. Unfortunately, though, for Zod and his army, they make the cardinal sin of messing with Martha, which is something you just simply don't do.
Why did you say that there?
Then Superman comes in and decides it's time to get him some of General Zod.
Surprise, motherfucker.
And then we get into one of the greatest fight sequences in probably any Superman movie I can remember. He punches a hole in Zod's helmet, which causes Zod to be overstimulated by Earth's atmosphere, something that Clark had to grow up and learn how to do. So Zod pretty much has to get pulled out of the fight. Unfortunately, the cavalry comes and retrieves Zod. Unfortunately, Superman is forced to face off against the giant Kryptonian and then the catty woman Kryptonian. And I'll tell you what, this fight sequence is pretty darn good. I mean, you got A-10s, you got little birds in there, and then every pilot dies though, so that kind of sucks. Like, they literally kill every single fighter pilot and somehow manage to get into a fight in an IHOP as well, which is impressive. Superman manages to survive the fight with the two Kryptonians, and he held his own during the whole thing, and also managed to show all the humans that, hey, I'm on your side, guys. Maybe you could put your guns down and stop shooting me because I'm trying to help save your planet.
This man is not our enemy.
Thank you, Colonel.
It's about dang time you realized that wasn't your enemy. I only told you that I'm not your enemy when you first met me, you dipshits. Anyway, let's go check out what they're doing over in the Flash universe at this time.
For the record, I think this is insane.
Yeah, we'll check back in with them later. So General Zod decides that it's time to stop playing around and get to business turning Earth into Krypton, which still, in my opinion, makes zero sense when you could be a god literally on this planet. Why would you not want that to be the case?
Release the world engine.
But it turns out that Clark is the codex. Okay, so here's the question that I have in regards to Clark being the codex. We realized that the thing that they thought was the codex was actually Clark's dad, but does the codex make Clark stronger? Does it make him smarter? I'm not really sure. They don't really go too into detail about this codex. After this movie, you never hear about it again. And in fact, in the Flash universe, you never even hear General Zod bring it up once. Could it be that the reason that Clark was able to defeat General Zod was because he was the codex, and that is why Supergirl couldn't? These are questions that would easily help me understand why Supergirl couldn't win, even though she seems just as powerful as Superman. Why doesn't the Flash or Bruce Wayne or Supergirl coordinate with the American military to help them defend the country? It makes zero sense. You can clearly see in Man of Steel that Superman was very involved with the American military and being able to come up with an operation to help save the planet. All right, time to jump back over to the Flash and see how they're making out trying to make Barry a speedster again. Supergirl decides to fly in and save the day. So Supergirl shows up and it's time for her to try to help Barry. I guess she realized she couldn't fight Zod by herself, so the help of two speedsters would be pretty useful. So she grabs Barry and she flies up with him to go get struck by lightning yet again. I don't know how this didn't kill him, but you know what? YOLO, I guess, right? Come on, son. We're gonna take you up and strike your ass with some lightning. Let's go. Also, I don't really have any idea how Supergirl even got lightning to strike her in the first place because it wasn't grounded to anything, but you know what? I'm just gonna go with it. So Supergirl comes back down, brings back a pretty much dead Barry Allen at this point because he's been struck by lightning so many times. And here comes second Barry Allen, come check on himself. And by some magical power, Barry Allen's able to trigger the Speed Force within the old Barry Allen and bring him back. All right, so now we're at the point in both movies where both teams are getting ready to plan their final battle strategies. On one side, you have Superman and the U.S. military, and on the other side, you have Supergirl, you have Batman, you have two Flashes. Let's see which one pans out best. So in the Superman universe, the plan is to drop Clark's spaceship that he arrived in on top of the world engine to try to stop it from terraforming Earth. From a C-17, they're using it like a bomb. Superman and the good old-fashioned US of A military, baby. That's all they got, and that's all they're gonna need. They haven't even planned on fighting Zod yet. They're planning to just take out this world engine first and then deal with whatever comes next. Let's go check out what Team Flash is planning.
What are we wearing tonight? You like it? Well, check this out. It's a bit more loose.
Yes. I will help you fight Zod.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Ah, yes, what could possibly go wrong here? So in the Man of Steel, Superman gets together with the United States military and comes up with a clear, organized plan that they need to execute in order to save the Earth. In the Flash, we got loose pants, hope, and let's get nuts. Yeah, I can see where this all went wrong. Here we are, the moment of truth, the final battle. It's all led up to this. You've seen the differences. What will be the outcomes? Let's get to it. So right off the bat, the Flash team seems to be coming in, taking selfies for some reason. And now Barry does mention the World Engine at one point, but instead of going after the World Engine, they are going after Zod because apparently Zod controls the World Engine, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I feel like you would want to go after the World Engine first to stop the destruction of the planet. So we're back over on the Superman side of things, and the world is not looking good. We jump to a scene between Kal's father confronting General Zod, and General Zod tells us why he doesn't want godlike power, and it's because he doesn't want to put up with a couple years of adapting.
Our people can coexist.
So we can suffer through years of pain trying to adapt like your son has?
To have godlike power and be able to fly around the world and be one of the strongest beings in the universe? Are you kidding me? That seems like a pretty even trade. So Superman does the smart thing and goes right after the World Engine and somehow finds a way to destroy that motherfucker. All right, so Superman did his part. Let's check up on the United States military, who apparently has brought on Lois Lane to help them on a bombing mission, which I don't think would ever happen in real life. But you know what?
It's supposed to go in all the way.
That's what she said. Sorry, sometimes I just can't help myself. I saw a perfect opportunity and I took it. But now look, considering that Zod has lost one World Engine already, he's incredibly distracted on stopping those who are trying to take out these World Engines, which gives Superman a perfect opportunity to lay the smackdown on Zod. This is what teamwork will get you, folks. Distraction and attack. All right, let's go check out how Barry Allen's doing. Okay, great. He can't even see out the mask. That should be very helpful. They make a really cool entrance. I will say they did a better entrance than Superman, but complete chaos going on and literally no plan. Just look and attack, I guess, is the plan here. I have to admit, one of the funniest parts of this whole battle is when Barry Allen says, yes, they're Kryptonian. Clearly we can't kill them, but we can distract them, and then proceeds to immediately kill one of the Kryptonians.
And yeah, they're Kryptonian, and we won't be able to kill them, but we can slow them down for her.
Okay, Barry Allen, please explain to me why you wouldn't use this move on every single Kryptonian you come across. It seems like you could kill them pretty easily with this move, but yet you don't see Barry Allen use this move again. I do want to say that this part right here is actually pretty interesting because remember how I talked about the codex earlier and how it wasn't mentioned in the Flash? Well, apparently I'm a big freaking liar because he gives you exposition right now about how the codex affects this universe.
But your cousin was not the one we needed. You are the one, Kara Zor-El. It's your blood we must harvest.
What did you do to Kal-El?
Okay, so it apparently turns out that Kara Zor-El now has the Codex DNA in her cells, not Kal-El's cells in this universe. So we have to eliminate the possibility of the Codex being something that would give the Man of Steel, Clark Kent, an edge over his battle with Zod. Again, every time that I think I figured out the reason why they lose this battle, something happens that completely changes my hypothesis. Because originally I thought that Clark Kent having the Codex in his cells is what made him have the ability to beat Zod. Remember, we're talking about Clark Kent and the American military versus Zod compared to Supergirl, two Flashes, and Batman and the American military fighting Zod and still losing. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The only thing that I can think of right now that they've done differently is not go after the World Engine. Anyway, let's go check up with Clark and see how he's doing in his fight against Zod at the moment. So Team America figures out a way to get this thing activated to turn it into a bomb, and then the badass American colonel just flies that sumbitch straight into it, destroying the second World Engine. This man did it with a C-17. I don't think you people realize how big and slow those planes are compared to a fighter jet. Yet the Flash, for some reason, can't destroy his World Engines. And of course, Superman goes and saves Lois because that's what he does. That's what Superman does. He just saves Lois. But number 2 World Engine is down. I mean, shit, Superman is such a G that in the middle of destroying Zod, he's even got time to lock lips with Lois Lane. How big of a chill dude could you be? Am I right? Maybe the whole point why Kara Zor-El couldn't beat Zod is because she didn't have a man to kiss. Just saying. Speaking of Kara, let's go check out how they're doing over there before we watch Superman show you how it's done. By the way, all of the Kryptonians aside from Zod are gone now, thanks to just a group of crazy-ass Americans and Superman. I gotta be honest, one of the greatest injustices in this movie is the amount of times we have to watch Michael Keaton's Batman die.
I'm not going alone.
Yep, he did. I mean, come on. It's like someone took my childhood and just peed all over it. Not once do we have to watch this guy die, but twice.
Can we please just take a minute? Sorry, dude. Yeah, but bro, of course.
Okay, so after just 2 attempts, Barry decides that he's gonna phone it in. Who knows, Barry? Maybe 3rd time's a charm. But you know what? The one thing you never thought to do was go after the damn world engine. You had a chance to do this again and again and again, and not one time did you think maybe instead of going after Zod, we should go after the world engine. I'm convinced after watching both of these movies that the only reason the Team Flash continued to lose was because they attacked Zod head on and didn't go after the world engine. You can call, intersecting lines or whatever all you want, but I think that the original Barry is a bit of a quitter. There, I said it. So now that we've seen Team Flash basically quit, even though they get unlimited tries and never once thought to go after the world engine instead of just facing Zod head on, let's go see how it should have played out.
Trained my entire life to master my senses.
Wait a minute, isn't it the same guy who said that he was going to be in pain for years to adapt to the elements? Now all of a sudden he's mastered it in one fight? What a bitch. You know what, Zod? I think I've had enough of you. You know what, Superman? Finish this bozo. And show Team Flash how all they needed to do was go after the damn world engines!
Don't do this! Stop!
I'm sorry, why don't you just move out of the damn way? Why are you cowering on the floor in a fetal position when there's a laser beam coming at you? I'm sorry, sometimes movies just drive me nuts with this kind of stuff. Anyway, continue, Superman. And that's how it's done. He did. All right, so now that we've watched the entirety of both Flash and Superman after Zod first makes contact, we've realized that the only difference between the two in reality is the fact that Superman elected to go after the world engines first, whereas Team Flash elected to just go straight after Zod. It makes you wonder, in those millions of attempts that Barry Allen said would never yield a result, if they went after the world engine first, could it have made a difference? My guess is yes, it probably could have, because it clearly broke Zod's heart to the point where he became careless, which in my opinion would make it so that Zod was more vulnerable for Kara to then eliminate him the same way that Clark did. If you came all the way through this journey with me, first off, I want to say thank you. And also, if you had a fun time with this video, please consider subscribing. It helps out a lot. I enjoy making videos like this where we dive into movies and figure out what is what could be different. But this question has always been bothering me, and I think that we finally figured out an answer today. I asked Superman what he thought about Flash's technique going after Zod, and he didn't have much to say, but he did do this.